I mean, it's obvious the globe's impossible. That's not an opinion, that's a scientific fact. So just for a minute, let's put aside this silly spinning globe earth theory nonsense that's scientifically impossible. And let's ask ourselves the question here. What are we actually part of? Because it seems like we can have a massive effect upon this realm that we find ourselves in. Prime example. I could not see anyone for years and they can suddenly appear in my mind. They just come into my thoughts. And then sure enough, I'll either bump into them in the street or they'll randomly ring me. I'm sure many of us have experienced this. And here's another example. Last week, before I left work to come home, I watched a short clip of a little near-miss stroke road rage video. Sure enough, on my way home, I had a very close near miss with a white transit van nearly trying to take me out. I thought that's really strange, and it kind of registered off the back of watching the near miss video just before I left work to come home. So the very next day, I actually made a point of watching another near miss road rage type video. And sure enough, on the way home, I had another near miss where someone nearly drove into the side of me. I obviously stopped watching those videos after that, but I found that very, very interesting. The 2 days consecutively that I watched those types of videos, I had interactions like what was in those videos. And of course, we know from our own experiences, someone can pop into our head from the past and then randomly appear from the past, whether it be ringing you or bumped into them in the street. So what are we really a part of here? It seems like we are part of this realm, this fabric of reality, whatever you want to call it. And our decisions and our thoughts can have seemingly quite powerful effects. Now I want to show you another example. We've got the tennis player Rafael Nadal, who recently, regarding the Djokovic and the medical procedure situation surrounded by the Australian Open, we had Nadal being very vocal, insisting that Djokovic should participate in that medical procedure. Now, a few months later, it seems like Mr. Nadal now is having problems with his health. He lost the Indian tennis final, I believe, yesterday because of serious chest pains and stabbing in his chest. Now, he's not sure whether or not it's a pulled muscle or it's something else. I highly recommend you watch the post-press conference with Nadal in there chatting, and you'll see the man actually looks quite scared. And of course, that symptom that man is suffering, Nadal, is one of the symptoms that are associated with the certain medical procedure that Nadal was pushing upon Djokovic. Isn't it strange how this realm works and how it evens itself out? Which is why it's so important to do the right thing and not be influenced. Certainly not be influenced by the man on the television. We should instinctively know what is right and wrong. Whenever I make my decisions, I use my stomach, my head, and my heart, and they all have to agree. And when they all agree, they're never wrong. This isn't a thing of ego. This is a thing of me getting in tune with my natural responses by looking deep within myself and understanding myself, partly through physical training, partly through self-awareness, and partly I've learned to do this through breathing exercises. You call it meditation, whatever. It's simply sitting down, controlling your breath, slowing your heart rate down, clearing your mind. It's great, especially if you've had a bad night's sleep. It's a great way of energizing yourself. But it's also a great way of starting to understand your body's natural responses. And in doing so, you'll become a wiser, savvy person for understanding our natural understandings of this realm, which in most cases have been polluted by the schools and the mainstream media. So it's so important to be true, to be right, to come all the way back to our very base fundamentals and regain our old school skills that have sadly been tarnished or diluted through delusions and desires of wanting to do other things that you think are rewarding, but actually they're not. This is an unusual video. I'm just there's nothing planned. I'm just talking about our interactions in this reality and the effects it can seemingly have. You look at the quality of the distraction back in the day, in the 70s and the 80s. There was very few TV channels and radio channels compared to now, and information sources. But the quality of the production back in the day, because of that, was of the finest. The music was sublime, so were the movies. Everything was of the highest order. 70s, the 80s, some of the greatest music and films ever made. All that magic, all that creativity, which came from real people in a lot of cases, born out of real experience, which doesn't happen these days. It's all pre-packaged stuff. And of course, you're bombarded with it. Back in the old days, it had to be of the finest order because they had very little outlets. So the music and the TV was brilliant. Now, with so many outlets, TV, radio, internet, YouTube, whatever, they just bombard you with tosh and overwhelm you. It doesn't need to be good. Just overwhelm them and distract them. But when you put all those distractions, all that bullshit away, and you come back to who you really are and the positive effect you can have here in this realm, and seemingly great power, just based on real experience. And I don't mean I just mean in having incredible understandings and as a result being quite powerful. Of course, people in power don't want individuals to be empowered by understanding themselves and having a good grip of reality, because that is a threat to the narrative. That's why everyone's overwhelmed with fucking bullshit. That's why I took my TV off years ago, and I was lucky because I had hardship as a kid, which I'm starting to think now was on purpose, almost training. Thanks, Mum. You were very, very savvy and very wise. And even now, Mum, your wise words reappear to me at the most random of times and keep enlightening me. So thank you. So my advice to anyone who's watching this and who's stuck around for this unusual video about us, our connections with this realm, about doing right and wrong, I suggest we all start doing right, not pollute our thought processes by watching mainstream garbage. Turn that TV off, go back in time for some good quality music and frequency. Certainly do not entertain the mainstream narrative these days. It's toxic and damaging to your health. And as we can see, based on the decisions and the way this realm works, poor old Rafael Nadal is now having possibly to face the consequences of his decisions. I hope he's okay, and I hope that's not the case, that he has to face the consequences of what he's pushed. But this place does seem to work that way, and I've known this for years, which is why I follow the template of trying to be nice and help others. Here's another magic tip. Helping others is incredibly powerful, but if you want to keep the magic, don't tell a soul. The moment you start telling others about you helping others, the ego gets involved and you disempower that magic. To keep the magic, do it and don't tell a soul. Keep that between you and the individual or people you helped. That way the magic is kept, the ego doesn't get involved, and that is a beautiful thing. Just some tips and based off my experiences in life. Just me pondering things sometimes, a little bit of a different video, but we definitely have the cause and effect thing here in this realm with our actions, which is why it's so important to turn that TV off, because the actions coming through that TV, what those people who push the TV, the narrative, certainly don't want our actions to be one of honor, truth, integrity, helping others, standing by the things that simply are. They want us to buy into delusions and sell our mothers, sisters, brothers, fathers out. It's disgusting. Rafael, I hope you're okay. Perhaps in future, my friend, don't naively push procedures that you're not fully aware of the implications of those procedures. I wish you well, fella. As for this thing, done and dusted, was slayed in 2014 when it was found not to have any demonstrable science. All we've been doing since is just mopping up, just cleaning up. We've had NASA test engineers, rocket scientists, supposed men of science, Simon Dan, you name it, they've come. Airline pilots, whoever. Not one of them could prove the globe. Do you know why? The globe's scientifically impossible. And again, that's the reason this mind op has been put on the general populace, is to get you to believe in absurdities like this and then buy into mainstream delusions. It's a very simple template, but the spell can be broken as soon as you own it, and that is own your ego and stop being a slave to delusions. Cheers, everyone.